as they're starting up.
I forgot about the delay. It's been a minute since I've been in one of the live streams.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Cool, we are live. So hello everyone out there. Welcome to another edition of Codecademy Live. We've got a special Hour of Code edition for you. My name's Alex Kuntz. I'm a curriculum developer here at Codecademy, and I'm back with Zoe. Zoe, it's been months since we've done these together.
Has been. We really kicked it off, back in the spring, but haven't had a chance to do one since then. So
do you remember the last one that you did?
Oh gosh, I think it was when we kicked off the official streams with the data visualization with Python. I think I did the first one of those. Well, and probably did another one. I think Marielle and I did one in there, but it was still when it was the beginning of the path. I think it was we were still in Python, so it was definitely some time coming.
I was saying my hair was so much shorter. I'm
Can you track the time over your screenshots and the different YouTube channels? That's awesome. Yeah, mine certainly is, at least since then. I think someone I was on the phone with the other day who I went to grad school with was like, oh my gosh, your hair, it's so long. I don't think it's been this long since 2015.
Yeah, with all of our quarantine look going on.
Yes,
cool.
exactly.
I see people in chat talking with us. Funny enough, some of the folks I recognize from chat, they've been with us this whole time since we've been doing live streams. So hello to, I think, Fede. I don't know how to quite say your name, but I recognize you from those on streams. So hello, everyone. If you're watching this in the archives, every now and then we are doing these live coding sessions. So if you'd like to watch us live and chat with us as we're doing this, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter. We're kind of sending out information about that all the time. Otherwise, if you're here with us live, welcome. Zoe, do you want to talk about what we're doing today?
Yeah, sure thing. So today we're going to be doing a short demo on how to build an augmented reality app with ar.js. So very exciting stuff. What's great about this little project is you can get an AR app running with basically 10 lines of HTML code. It's pretty short, it's really nifty, and then there's lots of room for experimentation and customization after that. So with Alex, I'll be going over the basic parts of getting your code set up. We're going to be using Glitch to do that. And then we are going to be going through a couple of ways of adding items to your sketch. If we have time, we're going to be talking about how you can start customizing it with different 3D models and markers. Markers are the images that you use to focus your AR app on in order to get the augmented reality experience. And yeah, that's kind of the run of it. I do appreciate folks who are saying, yeah, stiff competition with GitHub Universe presentation. Yeah, that one was going on today, or even our coworkers are watching that instead of us probably. Yeah. But this will be a really fun little project. I've done this workshop a couple of times. Honestly, saying to Alex, the last time I did this was the week before the New York City shut down. Had the chance to teach this at Wix. Wix has this really cool playground space near the Hudson River in New York City. And so we got to do an in-person workshop, and we were the last in-person workshop of the series that they were doing that time around. Yeah, literally the next one, they were already like, nope, COVID, can't do it, a week later. So,
yeah, that's, I guess, something to mention that, we're doing this as kind of a nice little hour of code workshop or presentation. I know both of us actually used to be classroom teachers, and I would do around this time an hour-long workshop with my computer science club looking for fun activities. And so hopefully this is a nice little activity that you can start from basically nothing. Maybe if you know a little bit of HTML, that will help, but you can get a fun little AR little applet working.
Yeah, and one of the great things about this is that we've put together a starter code. One of the reasons I love teaching workshops and classes with Glitch is that you can create a template for your students to go off of, so you don't have to worry about, folks having an ID on their computer. You don't have to worry about downloading any libraries. Everything's going to be already set up. All the libraries are in script tags ready for you to go through. Alex just dropped the setup template in the chat, so you can navigate there. That's where we're going to start. I'm going to walk us all through what the different code means. For folks who've done HTML before, this is going to look very familiar to you. but there's some special things in there. So
yeah, and if you're watching this, the recorded version, the link that I just dropped in the chat is in the YouTube description as well, so you can follow along there.
Perfect. Cool. So again, thanks everyone for showing up. I'm gonna share my screen and we can get started. So basically, I'm going to be walking us again through the code. I'm going to be talking about a couple of libraries. And so we'll be looking at some documentation with that. I'm also going to point out some Codecademy content that would be helpful for you to go over if you haven't done those courses already in terms of what we're learning today. So let's get started. Awesome. So Alex, we're good on the screen share?
Yep, I see the A-frame A-frame course. Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to navigate away from that for a second, but what we're going to be doing today is actually using a library called ar.js. So as folks who are here probably know, AR stands for augmented reality. So augmented reality apps are basically the ability to overlay different graphics, usually 3D models, oftentimes animated, on what appears to be your local surroundings. So would love to hear if folks have used AR before, if you have any favorite AR apps. Alex, do you have any favorite AR experiences you've done?
That's a good question. Yeah, so one question I was actually going to ask you as I think about that is, I think oftentimes VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality, get confused. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so in virtual reality, you're actually using a headset, whereas in augmented reality, you can just have it on your phone, or you can even, typically it's used on your phone. Sometimes you can get headsets like the HoloLens is technically an AR one. Virtual reality, you're in a completely virtual environment. So it's sometimes will take elements of reality, like you can see your hands in a VR space, they're represented with 3D models. But with augmented reality, we are in fact, as the term suggests, augmenting the reality around us by overlaying it, again, by putting on top of what we see in our surroundings, different images. Sometimes you can add sound to it too, 2D videos. You can get pretty creative with what you can do with AR.
Pokemon Go has got to be the most successful AR app of all time, right?
I mean, that's the one that always comes to mind for me. I mean, so if folks haven't played Pokemon Go, one, you're missing out. I know it's like maybe, what, 3 or 4 years beyond that point, but it was really fun. But yeah, so basically like the augmented part in Pokemon, right, is like when you are capturing a Pokemon and suddenly your camera turns on and what you see is what would be right in front of your camera. But on top of that, instead of like, right, if you had your camera open, you just see like, you know, I see my desk in front of me, you would see a cute little Pikachu chilling there. And you would have to then, you know, use your Pokeball to go and capture the Pikachu. So the actual characters, that's the augmented reality experience.
We've got some Pokemon Go haters in the chat.
You know, it's funny, like Niantic really did try to spin that off into a couple different things. Like I tried doing the Harry Potter one, like honest to God, Harry Potter nerd. At one point in my life, my dad is a huge fan of, oh gosh, what was the first one that they did? I really should know this. It has like different factions. You're in the Enlightenment or the Resistance. He's obsessed with this. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. He's like played this literally, I think, for the past 10 years of my life. Anyways, sorry, Dad.
Well, I think that's a good point. Do you have more practice? So games are obviously a good application of augmented reality, and even though people might say, "Oh, what's the use of games?" I think games have, you know, value.
Practical, absolutely. Yeah.
Are there examples of more practical examples?
Yeah. I've seen a couple of practical examples recently because I've been trying to buy a couch. Crate and Barrel, actually, I believe it was, offers a AR app. I think a couple other furniture purchasing companies do this too, where you can get your piece of furniture, you're looking at it on your mobile phone, and they're like, try this out in 3D or whatever it is, try it out in your space, and you can turn, click it, and again, your camera comes on, and suddenly you see that camera. I mean, you see that camera, you see that couch, you see that couch, and you can try and see about how it fits into your space using augmented reality. Pretty interesting. I think there's cool artistic examples, particularly when it comes to like place-based storytelling. So some friends of mine in grad school did a whole project around the Stonewall Bar that's in the West Village, and the history around that. And so you could do like an audio and video tour, but it was using location-based augmented reality to show that to you on your phone.
It's really cool. I think one thing that all of these have in common is one, there needs to be a camera of some sort, right? You need to like be able to point your camera at something and say, I want to put an image, or I want to put something there. In the thing that we're seeing on the screen right now, the dinosaurs getting placed, or those little markers are being placed around, I think it's a Staten Island, or the butterflies are being placed. So you need a camera pointing at something, and then you also need the object itself. And I imagine that that's what we're going to dive into today, of like, how do we tell our code, you're looking at the thing that is what I want my object to be placed on, and then how do you choose what object that you want it to be placed on?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a couple of different ways of doing that. So in this documentation, we can use 3 different ones. So you can see here at the top, there is image tracking, where you can take a customized image, like a photo, and use that as your marker, and what tells basically your phone, like, hey, put this object here on top of the image. There's also location-based. So if you are in a particular place based off of GPS data, it knows to render the image or model. And then lastly is marker-based, and marker-based is kind of the old school technique, but it's very simple. It's what we're going to start with today, and I encourage you to start there and then explore image and location-based tracking. But with marker-based, basically, they don't have a good image of it here, but I have one right here. You use something called a marker. QR codes are one of these. This is the classic one called Hero. There's also one that's called Kanji that uses the Japanese kanji character. And if you point your phone at this, like you might at a QR code, rather than bringing up a URL like a QR code does, in this case, again, you would see the models on top of the Hero marker. So we're going to get to see that today. Yeah. Any other questions before we dive into things, or should we look at the chat and see what folks are saying?
Yeah, in the chat, if you have questions before we actually get started coding, Zoe, I don't know if you have an example of the final result that we're going to be building to right now, but I think that would be kind of cool to see what we're eventually building to.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just drag up my super secret code. Well, I'll show the outcome first, and then we'll dive into it. So this is going to be a little weird for everyone because you're going to see me twice on the screen. We tried to figure out if we could call into Zoom from my phone, which would be the better way of doing it. But oftentimes when I'm prototyping these experiences, I end up just kind of doing them in Glitch, doing them in my browser, and then bringing up the marker on my camera. Like you can see here, I'm literally going into my favorites because that's where I keep my hero marker that I use all the time. Oh, and there you can go. There you can see it. This is Cody. This is our Codecademy mascot. This model was actually made by one of our colleagues, Natalie Wee, who took a Skillshare class during quarantine, which is pretty cool. She learned Blender and she made this little Cody. So yeah, so you can see obviously like I'm it's shown twice, I assume, to you guys. You can see me holding up my phone, nothing coming up, and then where I'm running the program in my separate screen where I'm screen sharing right now. If I hold it up, it sees the hero marker. We've got our little dancing Cody that comes into my little home office environment. And now you can also see what my office looks like.
Yeah, we got the behind the scenes look at the Iowa poster.
The Iowa poster. Yeah, that's my partner's side of the room. He's a very proud Iowan.
Yeah, we got a question. Can you touch it? Can you you've got your little AR Cody in there. What happens if your hand interferes with it?
So if I'm covering up the marker, it's immediately going to disappear because it can no longer track. But of course we can pretend and play around with it. you know, get a little tap on the head whenever I
Yeah,
find him. There you go. Good little Cody.
yeah, that's
Cody's
interesting. I
very
wonder
nice.
if we can start to think of interesting extensions into this project. And
Hmm.
for the record, I don't know how to do this. Zoe is totally leading this workshop. I'm actually going to follow along with her. So Zoe, how reasonable would it be to do something like, I've covered the marker now. Can we do something like, run the animation of Cody getting squished or something? Like, how easy is that to do in
Mm.
the library that we're using, of saying, okay, if the marker gets covered,
Is no
if the
longer
marker
being
goes
shown.
away, yeah, can I do something with the
Yeah,
model?
that's a really interesting. I actually haven't tried something like that because most of it is the marker telling the program to run right now, and that's like
Mhm.
the emphasis on it. But this is so ARJS is built off of A-frame, so there are other things with it. But yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe we should experiment with that and see what happens. Who
Cool.
knows?
Yeah, another good question. If you put hero markers
Mhm.
all over the place, would it show multiple Codys? So is it basically any hero marker that it sees, it's going to pull up the model that
It's
we
going to
asked
pull
for?
up the model for it. Yeah. And so
Nice.
the way we actually have it programmed right now is so that you can use multiple markers for it, which is nice. It can have multiple, basically kind of like cameras. Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, no, another good way to do this, and we were thinking about doing this because it's a little bit awkward to like be showing the phone and the phone
Yeah.
like turns off and all that stuff. Yeah, you could print out the hero marker, post
Mhm.
on your wall, and then there you go. Whatever model you have attached to that hero marker would show up.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I, like many millennials, do not own a printer in my personal home. If we were
Yeah,
not in a pandemic and I was at Codecademy, I totally would have printed them out. That's what we usually do for workshops.
we're
But
just
yeah, and the
useless, us millennials.
and avocado toast ruining our lives. But yeah, and so kind of mentioned this, but I'm going to turn off this one for a second. So we saw the hero marker, but one thing we'll be talking about too, if we get to have time, is that you can actually make your own markers and train your AR apps on that. So say, hero marker, not really liking the look of this. We have this resource that's been built to create a marker, train it, and then you can bring that into your sketch. So I'll show another sketch where we actually have Codecademy marker. It looks a little janky, but you can create a Codecademy marker and then have Cody come up on top of that.
Cool. All right, should we
Cool.
get to it? Anything else you want to talk about?
Um, well, I think we're good. Yeah, we can just dive into the code. I think maybe actually the last thing I'll plug is that so ARJS, as I mentioned, is the library that we're going to be using, but ARJS specifically is built on top of a library that's actually built on top of another library. So ARJS is built on
Perfect.
top of A-frame, right? Turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
So it's built on top of A-frame, which is a really simple to use app for building web VR experiences. So we're taking the web VR experience and turning it into a web AR experience. And there's a couple of great things about web VR and web AR. So I know some people were talking about AR Kit, AR Core. So one of the nice things about something like ARJS is there's a lot more simplicity to it. You don't need to be learning Swift or any bespoke mobile native language in order to build your app. You can just use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to do so. And as mentioned, so we have A-frame. A-frame is actually built off of another library called Three.js, which is pretty complex. A-frame does a really nice job of wrapping a lot of Three.js methods and built-in variables into a much easier to work with environment. And we've got an A-frame course on
Hey.
Codecademy, which is really nice. So what you'll see in this course is that it'll introduce you to A-frame, how to build environments, eventually writing a component. But it will kind of show you what are different things you can do with A-frame. And then you can think about how do I translate some of these items into an AR environment instead of being in a VR environment.
Yeah,
Um,
I've used A-frame before. I've never used this AR library before, but I imagine that because I've seen A-frame before, a lot of the concepts will be familiar.
It's gonna look super similar. So let me make this a little bit bigger on my screen. So AR.
So
I
Zoe,
almost
before you get started,
yeah.
can you show
Mhm.
navigating to that from the link that we've provided, which is just the
Yeah.
hour of code glitch?
So, So I have conveniently packaged all of these into Glitch. Going to have a little moment and plug Glitch for a second. So Glitch is a really fantastic online browser-based IDE where you can really easily do projects, share them, remix them. So today we're going to be remixing this project template that I've already gotten set up. So you can find it here under the Codecademy AR setup. You can see I've also got the solution code here. That was the one that I just showed with Cody and the hero marker. If we have time, I'll get into the Codecademy AR custom marker, which uses that custom Codecademy marker I was referring to earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Codecademy AR setup, and this will show the project page. It shows a demo of it too, so you can see me again on the video. And then we're going to go into edit project. Awesome. So I'm already in here, so I'm going to click out and see a couple of people join me here too. This is one of the reasons I really love Glitch as a teaching tool. You can see who else is looking at this right now. So we see some folks who have Glitch accounts. What's nice is like you don't have to have a Glitch account to get started. You can go and you can remix code, and then if you need to save it, you can do it there. So I'm realizing one of the tricky things is because I'm signed in. So I'm going to just take a moment to sign out and redo that again so folks can see it. Oopsie. So if I go back here and I go to this link again and I go to view source as an anon person, you can see a lot more anon people in here, you can click remix to edit. And once you click remix to edit, it's going to load the project for you. Again, you can do this all anonymously without signing in, which is really nice. It may take a moment to load the project, which is cool.
Just loaded for me, which is good.
Perfect. And so now we can start walking through things. I am going to sign in now that I've shown you all how to do that remixing step, just so I make sure that I am in the right section. Got everything. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So you now have your own version of this code, which means that everything you do, this is your own project now. You can modify it however you want. Obviously, welcome to follow along with me. You can also make detours and try other things out too. So we're going to start by just talking about this code and how it's set up in Glitch. So Glitch, when you spin up a new project, or in this case, if you remix a project that's a basic web dev project, gives you a couple of things. I'm just going to cover what we're using. We're going to be using our assets folder here. So this is where we can upload any images that we need to use, any 3D models. I'm going to come down to index.html. This is our HTML file, and it's already set up for us. And so I'm just going to walk through here. You can use JavaScript. I have not used CSS with A-Frame personally, but you can in terms of like styling a loading screen, for example, something like that. We're just going to keep it super easy peasy today, just work in one file. Again, this is what makes it a great hour of code project, because it is something that can be done really in under an hour with still a lot of room for experimentation and creativity. Cool. Any questions so far?
So we've got a couple. We have, do we need a webcam for this? I imagine the answer is yes, right? Because your webcam is going to need to see the marker in order to make your AR app.
Yeah. Yeah, in order for us to see it in here, what you can do is if you want to prototype this on your phone, and what I should first say, and this is kind of one of the shitty things about AR.js, is that it currently has a couple of key points. Well, not key points. Where is the thing? Requirements. That's what I was looking for. So it works on every phone that has WebGL and WebRTC, but you cannot use Chrome on an iOS, which does not support camera access. It does look like they have now supported Android, which they didn't do actually back in March. So that is a pretty big upgrade in terms of what it was before. So what you can do is if you are in Glitch and you go to show and you go to in a new window, you'll see, first of all, make sure you allow camera usage and everything else. You'll see that there's a URL here. You can actually type this exact URL into your phone. So I'll show what that looks like in Safari on my phone. Make sure you put the HTTPS in first, / funky, in my case. You want to put in whatever yours is. So I'm going to put in my randomly generated one, which you can change the name of too. .glitch.me. Okay, so I'm loading this. Hopefully you guys can see that. But it says, okay, want access to the camera? Yes, I'm gonna press allow. It says the immersive device needs to have access to your camera. Yes, and motion sensors. Yes, allow, allowing, just saying allow to everything. La, 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 la.
And so Zoe, this is if there is no webcam on their computer, they can basically run the app through their phone, which has a camera, or which hopefully has a camera.
Which hopefully has a camera on your phone. Yeah. Need some camera of some kind. So what you can see here is again, the rest of my office. And if I had like a hero marker, for example, when we finish the rest of the code, because this isn't the final code, you'd be able to see something appear on your camera here. So I'll
again,
keep this
a little bit
code.
confusing, because last time we were using the phone as the hero marker, and now we're using the phone as the thing
the thing that will have the augmented reality experience in it. Yeah. So again, like if you want to print out your hero markers and you want to see the AR app on your phone, that would be
that's a way to do it too. So it's not stuck to your computer, right? You don't have to be using your computer webcam to have the thing that's showing the AR experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So like when I do these workshops in person, we print out a bunch of hero markers everywhere, and then people can, usually they test it in the browser at first, and they'll hold up the hero marker and show it. So on the browser and make sure everything's working. It's a lot easier to go back and forth between typing in Glitch and then showing it in the browser. And then after you're ready and you want to show it as like a phone experience, then you just type the URL into the browser. Again, super easy. You don't need to download any apps. You just go to a URL and it's ready to go.
Cool. All right, I think we should jump into the code.
Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to keep this, I'll just close this down for now, but let's jump into the code. Okay, so I've talked about this a couple of times, but we're using basically 2 libraries in order to make this app work. Let me know if it gets too dark, because it's that time on the East Coast and I can see, I don't have my lights on. Yeah. So first here, you can see we need to include A-frame, obviously. So again, A-frame is this web VR library that the next library is based off of. So then we're going to include the ar.js for A-frame library. So this is really important when you do this on your own. If you go to the ar.js documentation, you'll notice that there is several ways to import the library, right? So we import a library in HTML with a script tag. What we're looking for specifically is ar.js with marker tracking. And then we want to import the A-frame version, not the 3JS version. Even though A-frame is built on top of 3JS, we want the A-frame version. You can always replace it with a specific version, but for these purposes, just make sure it's this one here. Again, this is in the setup code already, so you don't need to worry about importing it. You don't need to worry about your students importing it if you do this with them. Cool. Alex, just let me know if anything comes up in the chat, and we can answer questions as we go on.
Yep, I'm trying to answer questions in chat as well as people are typing them.
Brilliant. Cool. So folks are familiar with HTML. If you're not, take our Learn HTML course on Codecademy. I helped write it. We've got a body tag, right? So as we know, on a website, our body tag is where the content of our website goes. Same here with our AR app. The content of our augmented reality app is all going to go within the body tag. So let's dive in another level into the body tag. So what we have here is an A scene tag. If you've done A-frame before, you will have recognized this. This is how you set up your web VR scene. But in this case, we're not doing web VR, we are doing AR.js. So we want to make sure that we're adding additional information, which is just this line of embedded AR.js. And that's, again, what lets the program know it's AR, not VR in this particular case. Okay, next important thing. Within the scene tag, so make sure everything at this point is nested, right? We have our body tag, we have our scene tag. Next important tag is our marker tag. So as I mentioned, we're doing marker-based AR. That's different than image-based. That's different than location-based. So with the marker tag, you can have an attribute of preset, and you can actually define what marker you want to use. We're going to use the hero one, which again looks like this. You can also change it to, there's a couple other ones like kanji. You can find all of this in the documentation. It lists preset here, preset markers you can use.
So those are all built in. So it knows, okay, if you give me hero, then I'm going to be looking specifically for this marker, which is like built into all of the library.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see right here for preset, this is the attribute that I was mentioning before. These are the ones that are preset markers, so hero or kanji.
Cool.
When we talk about custom ones, we will show how you need to use the attribute type to determine a different kind of one. Awesome. So I'm going to jump out of the marker one for a second, but I'm going to come down here to camera. So again, this is super important. Our web app needs to know that we have a camera in place, and that's going to move according to the marker position. So in A-frame, they have this kind of like general object component called an entity. A-frame runs off of an entity component system. There's an article about it in our Learn A-frame course, and it allows you to do a lot of special things. You may notice that there is a camera component in A-frame. We don't want to use that one because you can if you're only using one marker, so it actually would be fine in this circumstance. But as someone was mentioning, if you want to use multiple markers, you want to make sure to be using the A entity camera one. Awesome. All right, so jumping back into marker, the next thing that's super important here is this is where your content goes, okay? So anything you want to show up on your marker needs to go within the marker tag. Definitely think about that for debugging. If something's not showing up, maybe because it's not in your marker tag. I catch myself doing it all the time. There's a lot of levels of nesting going on, so you just want to be really careful to make sure everything's nested correctly. It's one of the nice things, again, about having the setup code.
So if I wanted my AR app to show one object when I look at the hero marker and one object when I look at the, what's the other
kanji
marker? Kanji marker. Could I just put them on the same level of nesting? So would they both be inside the A scene?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I have two markers.
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
In a minute, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really good at getting the basic part of this stuff. So try it out.
Again, something to play around with once we make our final product. Exactly. Maybe we can add a second A marker that will show something completely different, where we define what the hero marker shows, but then the other marker could show something else.
Honestly, like that would be my assumption, because there are definitely apps that, want to see different images, different QR codes, all of it's based into the same logic, right? It's not different apps. So there's definitely a way of having multiple markers in there. But that would be, a good thing to figure out on your own. Extension challenge project.
We've got some good questions in chat. I think we should get a little bit further into the code, but I'll write them down to ask you in a bit. Okay,
cool. We're almost there. So the last thing that we're going to talk about right now is adding an actual component from A-frame into the code itself. So as I mentioned, you want to make sure all of your content was within the marker. And so in this case, we have a box. So it's going to look like a cube. And you can guess by the different attributes here that we have a position attribute that centers it at 0, 0, 0, and a color attribute that sets it to red. So if anyone has any guesses in terms of like, what do you expect to see happen once we turn on our app? Can use this as like a moment.
Yeah, good question. So given that we're saying the hero marker, we're asking for this A box tag with a position and color thing. What do you call them? Properties?
Attributes.
Attributes. What do you expect to happen? As we're waiting for chat to answer us, I'll throw some questions at you. Could you where is this? Could I use AR.js to add glasses on people's faces?
No. Unless it was glasses on an image of someone.
Yeah, exactly. So you could make, or if someone had the marker on their forehead, right?
Or if someone had the marker on their forehead, or if they were standing in a very specific location-based spot that the GPS could find them in. So if you built like a photo booth or something that was in a particular spot.
Yeah, center of Times Square, you could say anyone at the center of Times Square, if you run your app there, then glasses will show up at people standing in that exact location.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. We have a flat box, a red box in the top left corner. That's really interesting intuition from Kat. A red box in the top left corner. I'm guessing that's
has someone been doing P5.
Yeah, exactly. 000 is usually the top left corner. You wanna say what this is, Zoe?
Yeah. So in this case, we're using the XYZ coordinate system. People sometimes show it like this in terms of your hand, but X would be the horizontal, Y would be the vertical, and then you have Z shooting out into space. In this particular set of circumstances, it's actually directly in the center. So what we should expect to see is a red box directly in the center of our marker.
Cool. Do we want to try it out?
Let's try it out. I'm gonna find my hero marker again on my phone.
And again, I'm going to post the link one more time in the chat. This is the starter code that we're starting with. So if you have a webcam, I suppose, Zoe, do you want to show how to run the program?
Yeah, so I prefer, you can run programs in two ways. With Glitch, I like doing it in a new window. And you can see now on my shared screen that the camera is up. And I just need to point my marker that's on my phone, which is hard to see with the background on, but you can see it there. Oopsie. All right, there we go.
There's our red square at 000.
Red square at 000. So it looks like it's, pretty directly on top. I can rotate my phone. It rotates with it. If my screen goes dark, like it just did, it stops tracking. One of the other benefits of having it on a piece of paper and not on your phone. But yeah, so I can move it across. Even, it's interesting, it picks up reflection and disrupts the image and the way the camera is able to read the image.
It's interesting.
So things
Zoe,
to keep
will you
in
send
mind.
me the link to the marker so people can put it up on their phones or something?
Absolutely. Yes. I find myself, this is why I have it literally in my saved images. Do you want me to chat it to you?
Yeah, just chat it to me and I'll post it in chat. And then afterwards, I'll make sure it's in the YouTube description.
Okay,
again, this is the thing that you could print out. It doesn't have to be on your phone, but basically you need this marker somewhere, whether it's a digital version on your phone or a physical version in order for your AR program to see it.
Exactly. So I should also, I want to see if this works. Yeah. So this is, oh man, how am I going to show this? I'm like, should I try moving my monitor? Maybe I will. We're gonna get,
what are you wanting to
folks. Do? I want to see if I can point my laptop screen at this.
Wow.
I know. It's like,
you're gonna have to kill the background.
That's what it is. I am gonna have to kill my background. Everyone can see everything anyways, right? So it doesn't even matter if I show background anymore. Okay.
Answering questions from the chat. Yes, the source code from Glitch. If you go to that first link in the YouTube description or the link that I've been posting in the chat, if you go to Codecademy AR setup, that's the source code, and you can go and download all the code from there.
Yeah, so it's hard to see because obviously there's no depth that you can see on my phone, but you can kind of make out that there's a red square coming up on my phone because I'm pointing it at my screen that has the hero image on it that I'm currently screen sharing with the rest of you. This is some major tech inception right now. It'd be amazing if someone walked in here and took a photo because I'm literally sandwiched between my laptop and my monitor with my phone in between.
Yeah. So the phone is the thing running the app. The computer is the thing that's showing the marker. Again, that could be a piece of paper. And so, right, really the best way to do this is get your phone being the thing that's running the app, which like Zoe was saying, you can just enter in that URL. onto your phone, and then you can walk around your house. If your markers are all over your house, you can point it at them, and then the red cube will show up for now.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to go back to the way my setup was. If I can get back to the way my setup was. Oh yeah, it is. It's very lovely outside. Cool. So now that you guys, we've gotten rid of the facade of where Zoe works, you can see it from all the different angles. Awesome. So now comes the fun stuff. Okay. We got a basic AR app working with very few lines of code. What is this? This is a total of like, I mean, if we took out all of my comments, it would probably be 10 lines of code. That's really special. I think one of the reasons I love teaching things like HTML is it's really accessible. It's really quick to get something that's immediately gratifying. And I think that's true of this project too, is that with doing very little work, you can get a red box to show up on the screen.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's cool too is that as we're going through this next stuff, if you want to start playing around with your app as we're kind of introducing the Codey model and more complicated models, play around with that position, right? What if you say position is 200, or what if you change the color to green, stuff like that, and you can start to dig through the documentation to find, right? Basically, if I were in this workshop, I would probably be Googling A-frame, A-box, because that's the kind of box and now looking for information about position, about color, about other things that I can do with this box as I'm waiting for us to get to like trying to add Codey and all this other craziness that we're going to do.
Exactly. So maybe I won't dig into this too much, but basically A-frame has all these different primitives that you can work with. Again, this is, I believe, covered in our A-frame course. So you can start to like look for different things like, here's the whole section on primitives. This is what I was looking for. So we used a box, but you can use a circle, a cone, a cylinder, a dodecahedron, octahedron. You can add lights, you can add a ring, you can add a torus knot. I love the torus knots. You can add a video. If you want a video to play at a certain location, super easy to get that working. Cool. So like Alex said, definitely encourage you to dig around in the documentation and see what you can do just with the A-frame primitives here to make this a bang for your buck. Let's move into talking about using custom models, because I think that's one of the most exciting things. So custom models. This is also talked a bit about in A-frame. So when you have 3D models, A-frame provides components for loading GLTF and OBJ. They recommend GLTF because that's becoming more of the standard. This is a really great page. I believe we linked to this in the resources later, but you can find models in lots of different places. Sketchfab's a personal favorite of mine. A lot of people make it there. Google also has something, I think it's called like Google Voxel, maybe? Does that sound right? Okay, apparently not. I don't know, Google 3D models free.
Yeah. So sorry, I was answering chat, so I was
oh no, you're good.
Not listening for a sec. So we're looking for, now that we've got a square, we're looking for models that we can add to this instead of our square, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. Oh, Polygon. That's what it's called. Google Polygon is a place where I've gotten several before. Do they not have Polygon? Okay, well, we're gonna, we don't need to go through this and finding a model. It takes time to often find a model. If you have experience with 3D modeling or interest in creating your own models, definitely recommend Blender. It's a free program that's really great. Oh, Supercraft apparently is built with A-frame and no modeling skills. Haven't heard of that. That one looks super fun. I would try that out. What's nice about using GLTF too is it's just one file. If you use an OBJ, you need to make sure you have the OBJ and the material one. So I'm going to show a material. I'm going to show adding a GLTF one. So give me a moment while I make sure I have everything in place. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just close out this. I'm just going to comment this one out for now. and we're going to go to our assets folder. So you'll see there's already a scene GLTF that's rendered there. Don't worry about that. What we are going to do is upload an asset. And now I need to find my Cody asset. It is here.
So we can't see that on Zoe's screen share, but somewhere on her local computer, you've downloaded, what is it? It's a .gitf file.
Yes, I think it's GLTF.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. It's Google Poly. Okay, great. Yeah, this is why I shouldn't remember things in the middle of live stream. I'm frantically just typing random things into Google. But yeah, so as Alex was saying, when I click upload an asset, you can't see it, but a file system comes up. I'm selecting the GLTF one. I'm going to click open. You can see it said uploading asset. And now I have this Cody 3D2 asset right there.
Right. So this is like a whole nother world of AR stuff of like, you could really, I mean, this is what some people's jobs are, like the person who made this little Cody asset of making these 3D models that then, you know, whoever is going to go and put these models in their project.
Exactly. So awesome opportunities for collaboration too. If you've got a friend who's a 3D modeler, you can hit them up and be like, hey, person, can you make me a cool T-Rex model that I can use in my AR app? Like I did with Natalie. I said, hey, Natalie, can I use your awesome Cody one too? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the A-frame documentation and search GLTF. You can see that this A-GLTF-model component comes up. I'm going to click on that. And it has an example here. What we're going to do is do this second way of using a GLTF model, which is directly linking the URL in the source. This other one has like a whole loading system. I find it to be somewhat finicky personally. So I'm going to just copy this because copying and pasting is your friend when you're learning how to code. No shame in that game. And then you're going to go to index.html and you can delete your box. I'm just going to put this right underneath and I'm going to post it in. Now, what I need is, I don't have a tree.gltf. I have my Cody.gltf. And so I need to head back to my assets folder here. And then if you go to your asset that you want, in my case, the Cody one, I'm going to click on this and it has a URL generated for me by their CDN, Content Delivery Network. So this is nice. Another reason I love using Glitch is I don't have to worry about hosting my assets anywhere, right? Like if I was to put this on the web, if I'd been developing it locally on my own computer, I'd have to figure out, okay, how am I going to host everything? How am I going to link it all together? This makes it pretty simple. So I copied that. I'm going to go back to my index.html and I'm going to take out the tree and I'm going to post in this really ugly looking URL here. Another thing I love about Glitch, I should just be an official influencer. Click format this file and boom. It's on a whole new line. It looks really nice. Like we did before with the box, I'm also going to give it, I should have waited to prettify it, but it's cool. I'm going to get a position of 0, 0, 0. So again, X, Y, and Z are all set to 0. So it should be right in the middle. Yeah, then let's test it out.
Yeah, so the big step here is getting your hands on one of these models and bringing it into your project. We're doing it through this asset folder in Glitch and then hosting it on Glitch here using this URL. If you're not running this on Glitch, you can do that through your local file system, or basically you just need to give your program access to this 3D model file, which can be kind of tricky, honestly. I think that's part of coding where people get lost, because it's like it's always hard to start combining these different parts of your computer. Right now, it's not just this HTML file anymore. It's now we have to look into this asset folder, and the asset folder is talking to, like, we've uploaded the asset and it's being hosted at this URL. So all of these things start to kind of mix with each other. But again, I think the important thing is that the goal that we're trying to do is give our program access to the 3D model file.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, not all 3D models are created equal. You'll see this as you try it out. When I've taught workshops in the past, sometimes it can be challenging to find the right model for your purposes, which is nice if you have a friend who can 3D model things for you. Even with Natalie, we had to have a little bit of back and forth because the way that it was being exported, you have to be really careful when you're exporting 3D models to make sure that you have all the different components together, that the lighting is right on it, all these different sorts of things. So don't be discouraged if, you know, even after 3 tries, you don't find something. Like, really take your time to find a model that you like. Another thing I'll say is that sometimes for these models, they're done at like a really high, quality. So when you initially import them, they actually look massive. They're like giant, and you don't see them on the marker at first because they're so big. So you'll want to use attributes around like height in order to scale it down.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so always try that too if you're having trouble.
Imagine that almost even has to do with the camera, where by default your camera is like, you know, a set distance. And I'm kind of talking out of my butt here. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it's like, I imagine that if so, you point the thing at the marker, and if your asset is giant, basically the camera is going to be inside the asset, and so it's not going to show anything. So if you could like either back the camera way far away or shrink the asset down.
Yeah, so you can probably even put position and stuff like that in camera. Like if you've ever done any VR stuff, you know that you can position your camera in a very particular way in relation to your assets in a VR space too, to determine like what the experience is for a viewer once they enter that space. Like, are they above items? Are they below them? Or right, are they very close to them so they look really big? Are they much further away so they look very small? So yeah, it's like having that kind of mindset of how everything would be mapped in virtual space, but thinking about, okay, but this is real space. So that's why I'm not seeing it show up on my phone, because that's just my little window into it right now.
All right, let's run this and see if we can see that model.
Yeah. All right. So let's see how this goes. All right, here we go. So this is what we saw in the beginning, right? So we saw, we saw this little Cody. He's not spinning. That's because in the solution code, I actually have like a little bit of animation on him. So if you're interested in animation, rotation, you can
take a look at that solution code that's in
yeah, exactly. So that's all in the solution code that Alex linked to beforehand. So, and then again, something to like look at the AR documentation about, you know, where is the stuff around rotation, animation properties, you can loop things. And also like maybe, you know, changing again the position of Cody so he's not like directly on top of my marker. Maybe you want to have it appear slightly differently. Again, on a phone though, this would look very different because if I had like, it keeps popping up, hello. If the hero marker was on the ground and I was looking at my phone, it would look like he was just like standing right directly on top of it. This is just kind of like a little weirdness right now.
Zoe, I'm going to put you on the spot for a potentially interesting extension that we might be able to try out here. Okay, can you go back to your code? Okay, can we add the other marker? So can we add the AR marker for Kaji, right?
In addition to this one.
In addition to this one, and give it just the red box again. And then can you go grab your partner's phone and pull up the Kaji marker and the hero marker? I don't know if you have the ability to go grab both markers, but
let me try. Oops, and I definitely want that to say marker. Okay. I'll grab that here. Let me see if I can grab Justin. He's probably looking at imagery or something. All right, 1 second.
Okay. Meanwhile, I'll talk to chat as Zoe goes and grabs another phone. People are saying that they have major imposter syndrome, and I think that that is a super common experience. Again, the thing that I would do to try to alleviate that is to experiment with this again, right? Like, really, I think it's a massive accomplishment even to get this running, but 2, play around with these 3 numbers with position and see if you can figure out what's happening. See if you can add a different shape, not just a box, but again, Zoe was showing all of those different shapes.
I know.
And then finally, I think the 3D model thing is a
Let's
little
see.
bit complicated and a little bit tricky to do, but if you can go download a free
Let me put
model,
my headphones back on.
Glitch. Sorry, Zoe, I'm just monologuing here. If you can go into go grab a free 3D model, bring it into Glitch, then you can have exactly what Zoe has here. I think that part's a little bit tricky. I would say if you're feeling super overwhelmed, I think the better thing to do is to play around with those attributes on just the box.
Okay. All right, here's the box.
Hey,
here's Cody.
Nice.
Hey, there we go. All right. I'm gonna go back to my boyfriend.
Okay. All right, so shout out to Zoe's partner for sacrificing their phone for 15 seconds.
He's expecting a call, so he was like, "If the call."
Oh no! Oh my God! Wow.
I'm not answering a call. Okay.
I think that's a really cool demonstration though of like you're not just stuck with this one marker. You can have you could print out 10 of these different markers, 10 versions of these different markers. You can print out 100 different copies of each marker and put them around your apartment, and now you'll have like thousands of different objects popping up around your apartment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that was great. That was really fun. And unfortunately, we only have 4 minutes left. But what I will say, and I think this is in the source code, again, little challenge project. And I did link to the code, the solution code for this as well, if you want to see what it looks like. But you can upload a image. So I did this the other day with like the Codecademy logo. It looks a little squinched. So you may want to find something that's like actually more of a square. But you can, change the border color. Oh no, that's actually the image size. Don't mind me. Pattern ratio is what I was talking about. How much of the pattern it is to the black line. And then what you do is you would download the marker, which is like a dot pattern, and download the image. And I'll show y'all what it looks like. What that code looks like really fast. So again, everything's there. What is different is that in the AR marker tag, we now have the type pattern, and we have our URL going to that pattern. So once I downloaded it, I uploaded it to my assets. You can see here we have the scene and the Codecademy 3D2. These are actually, don't worry about these. That was from something else I was trying out, but we want to focus on the pattern one here. And so if I go back, that's basically where I pasted it in, yada, yada. And then again, here I have my model and I have the source code. This one also has animation on it. So it has rotation, animation, and I can show you, ooh, my phone battery dying. Go to my library. So I uploaded this last night. You can see that's the marker that I made. If you have an iPhone, I'm a big fan of just like when you download it to your computer, airdropping it to yourself, otherwise text it to yourself. And
so I understand the reason for making your own models. Is there a strong reason for making your own markers? Is it just so that you don't accidentally overlap with other hero markers that are lying around outside the world or something?
Oh, I hadn't really thought about it. I think mostly just for like the more customization. So if you are putting it out there, right, it's a lot cooler to have this say Codecademy than it would be to have just a random kanji.
I guess for an art exhibit, right, you could make it your your logo or something if you're making this part of your art exhibit, so you can kind of personalize the markers themselves.
Yeah. So and like I mentioned, that one's specifically a marker one, but other things that you can explore as extensions of this are using, this is, see this image that I was playing around with of our coworker, Sarah, eating some shrimp cocktail back in the pre-COVID days when we had a game night at the office. Anyway, so if you want to try image-based tracking, like I was trying out, you can go to the image tracking section of the AR.js documentation. It has example code here to show you how you would do that. You would again use this NFT marker creator in this case, and you can upload an image. What's nice about this is it will also give you a level of confidence as to how well it thinks that image will do. They also have like a whole section on like whether, I'm trying to find where it is, but basically it'll tell you if you want to understand if you want to understand more in depth how it works and what makes a good marker, they explain it here. Actually, the more complicated it is, it's the better. It gives it more points to be able to identify.
More distinct, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, again, like that makes it a more custom experience immediately, is having a personalized image like that. And then,
let me take 2 minutes to answer some questions from chat.
Sure.
We've got.
I'm gonna stop screen sharing.
Sure. A question of just, can you make a game from AR, and how would you do so?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, as we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream, there are a lot of popular games that integrate AR into them, Pokemon Go being one example of it. You know, I haven't done as much work integrating JavaScript into the experience, but A-Frame is very popular for creating web-based games. You don't have to even use A-Frame for web-based VR. You can just use it simply for 3D environments online. So it is very popular for creating game mechanics. So, you know, you'd have to do a bit more work in terms of like figuring out collision detection, stuff like that. Like it may not have built-in functions that like a gaming library like Phaser.js or even Unity or something like that would have. You can create AR apps with Unity. I used to do a lot of Unity AR workshops with Vuforia. I think Vuforia may be built into Unity now. So that actually is a pretty simple way of building apps. But I'm sure if you're working with JavaScript, you can figure out ways of building games in AR too.
Nice. Kind of general question about JavaScript. What do you guys think about JavaScript full stack developers? Do they have their place in the industry, or better to be more diverse with other coding languages?
That's a great question. Well, as a web development domain lead who worked on the full stack JavaScript career path, I do think that there is definitely a place for full stack JavaScript developers in the industry. I'd say particularly in like coastal cities and places like New York, there's a lot of JavaScript-based shops using Node and Express. I would say, you know, full stack JavaScript is a great place to get started, but it's not where I would stay. I would definitely invest in other languages, particularly Java, especially if you're interested in building out your backend capabilities. Python with Django is another popular offering. A-Frame, ASP.NET with C#, which we have a course on, is extremely popular, particularly in the Midwest and the South with enterprise shops. So I'd say like start there. It's nice just to be able to have one language and you can build full stack applications. And especially if you're interested in building out your portfolio that way and demonstrating what you can do, you know, a lot of the concepts are going to translate across languages. And then it's just a matter of learning different syntax and how different you know, systems work together.
Nice. Okay, and then final question for this session, this one related to AR. Can I use something similar to show in a native using Java and XML Android app? So the camera gets loaded and the app to find the marker, etc. So basically, does this kind of system work in other languages? In this case, Java and XML in an Android app.
I mean, I'm sure, you know, it's a matter then of it's a library, right? Like it packages everything really nicely for you. So I always confuse which is ARKit and which is AR Core. I think AR Core is the Android based one for doing, and ARKit's the iOS one. I think so. But correct me if I'm wrong. And so I would say, you know, obviously there are extremely skilled developers who have like figured out how to leverage the hardware of a phone and its camera in order to create AR experiences for Android. And I'd say always start with the library. If you need higher fidelity, you know, you can go a step down and figure that stuff out. But yeah, I would start with the library.
Cool. All right, well, one more question. John Carlo says,
Oh, okay.
Alex, answer my question or I won't go to sleep after this.
No.
John Carlo was the person asking about JavaScript.
Okay,
You say,
cool.
I live in New York and would like to know if with just full stack JavaScript, can I get into the field instead of learning Ruby, Python, Django, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what all the boot camps are teaching these days. Again, I basically architected the full stack path, so I would not steer you wrong. We had subject matter experts and people who are in the field who are part of the app production. So, we built that because we saw that it was actually more common to use, full stack. And of course, too, it's not simply just about JavaScript. It's also about, Alex just wrote this great Postgres skill path that we also incorporated into our career path. And so we're teaching you how to use PostgreSQL and SQL with JavaScript, whether that's like, directly interfacing with Postgres or using an ORM like SQLize so that you're writing it actually in pure JavaScript and bringing it in. But yeah, 100%. I mean, we hired people at Codecademy who come from full JavaScript backgrounds, so it's possible.
Cool. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. Zoe, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Super, super fun. Again, if you caught this late, this will be posted on YouTube. All of the links to relevant stuff will be in that YouTube description. And yeah, I think we are planning on having more live streams in the new year. So keep an eye out for our YouTube channel and if you want to see more of us. So.